Yay, we're back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, hi, everybody. We are sorry for a little delay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Colleen Ellis, let me throw up our little introduction slide there.
Yes.
Pet loss pioneer Colleen Ellis, and good friend of mine for like, I don't know, maybe a decade now.
I know. Don't age us, Mayor. Don't age us. I love it.
So, all right, Colleen, let me ask you now. Our conversation is going to be about anticipatory grief, and
Yes.
I want to put it out there that you and I are going to smile and laugh and have, a good conversation, because even though this is a sad, difficult topic, it doesn't mean we have to be sad about learning about it and learning how to manage through it, right?
Yeah, and you know what, Mary? We are going to have a little bit of fun, because I am going to share some stories with you about people who were able to take that walk, that anticipatory grief walk, and they were able to do some really cool things that I know is going to make everybody smile. And so at the end of the day, while we're doing that, it's all out of respect for the journey.
I agree. I agree. And so, listen, we already have a comment, Carol. It absolutely is a very serious topic, but we are going to talk about ways to make, to change our focus from the grief that we're anticipating to also being present in the moment, because it is so fleeting. I would like to first say, why are you the pet loss pioneer, Colleen?
It was an award I was given X amount of years ago by an association, the Pet Loss Professional Alliance. And I was very honored. I was very honored that that's what they called me. Obviously I'm not going to make that name up for myself. And so I was very honored with that they called me that. And it's an association that's in the human death care industry, and I do lead a very big charge with our human death care counterparts, and in talking about serving the family. And for some of us, Mary, as you well know, our family includes things that have floppy ears and four legs, and maybe some skins and some scales and some things like that, or fins and scales.
And feathers.
And feathers, everything there, all of that. And so I do lead the charge on that, and within my death care colleagues and stuff. So I'm honored.
I love it. So you were the first pet loss funeral home, right? Standalone funeral home?
Yeah. So let me tell you what that means, Mary. So one of the things, and for all of our listeners here, I know you're going to be able to relate to what I'm saying. Coming out of the human death care industry, one of the things that I wanted to, I guess maybe the word is try to see if others felt like I did and like you did. And so that little funeral home that I started, it didn't have a cemetery. It didn't have a crematory. It was all about giving people permission to do what they wanted to do when their little precious love died, to include visitations, to include funerals, to include the opportunity to buy memorialization pieces, to include having somebody like me who said, you know what? I'll sit with you and I'll listen to your stories all day long. I want to hear them again and again and again. I want to hear them. And that's what I did.
I love it. This is why you bring such a smile to my face. I want to maybe correct myself. This is not a funny thing, but you bring joy and a smile to something that is can be so traumatic to many and really sad. Now, listen, I'm going to show this again later on, but you've written a book, Pet Parents.
Thank you for that. Oh my God.
I'm going to show it towards the end, and we'll put a link to this. This is an amazing book that goes through the whole journey. And so my point is, I've got an expert on the line with me to talk about this. And so let's dive into this. What exactly is anticipatory grief?
Mary, it's thinking about the day that's going to come. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's laced with grief. It's anticipatory grief that says, oh my gosh, I'm near, or we've just been given a diagnosis that I know it's getting ready to happen. And so we start to go through the grieving process. Okay. And everything looks exactly like a grief journey, but for the fact that they're still here. But I got to ask you something else. I don't know if you do this. I got a little pup that just turned 2 years old. And when I got her at 5 months old, I said, okay, God willing, I got 20 years with her. Okay. I'm going to be X age. And so I automatically started doing math and I started thinking about what's going to happen on that day, because that's kind of what we sign up for when we get these little loves, because we know for the most part, we're going to outlive them. Right. And
Totally.
so always kind of present there, the when, and not the if, it's a win. Okay. The when and the, how long do I have? How
Right.
long do I have?
And we try to calculate it, right? So it's a
Yes.
big breed, it's a small breed, it's a cat, it's a,
Yep.
whatever, right? So it is always on our mind. And then when we do start to see a little bit of gray muslin, or getting a little skinny kitty, we start to even get more worried and more
Yep.
worried. And
Yep. And we start to do more math,
and
and we
we
start to have more of those feelings that say the day is coming, and when will the day be here? And it's almost this more pronounced thing, because we can make a call, and so then that starts to creep in that says, oh my goodness,
I
is
have to
that
make
going to be what I have to do? I have to make the call. And is that approaching me? And then we start to say prayers of, I just want you to go to sleep. And we start to make some deals to say, if you'll just do this, then I'll do this. And we
right.
start to do a lot of that stuff, right? But Mary, I got to tell you something. I want to tell you a story to kind of kick us off here. Okay.
Okay.
So I was attending a conference that you and I go to every year in Orlando with VMX. And this was a couple years ago. And I'm walking around the exhibits, and this young lady comes flailing her arms down one of the exhibit aisleways. And Colleen, she says, Colleen, oh my gosh, I've been looking everywhere for you. And gosh darn it, I don't know where I met her. I don't know, but I clearly made an impression on her. And so she begins to tell me this story. And she says, now this is in January, back before the pandemic, when they held
Yeah.
that conference in January. So this was in January. And she says to me, she says, when I saw you last January, she said, I had shared with you that we were there with my pup. We were there. And she said, you told me to stand tall and to shoot myself out 6 months from the day and say, and look back and say, what will I do to make the end perfect? Because I want to do that. I want to make the end perfect. I want to have no regrets. I want to have none of that. Even though I know I'm going to make a call, I want to have none of that. No regrets. And now she's crying. She's just sobbing. And she has her phone out, and she says, we put her to peace. That's what she called it. We put her to peace last April. And she's showing me these pictures, and she said, here's what I did. And she continued to say, Mary, she continued to say, Colleen, the end was perfect. It was perfect because of how you had me think about it. And she said, so what I did, she said, the weekend before, she said, I went to one of those places where you drink wine and you paint.
Right.
Genius business idea, right? Genius. And so she said, I painted her portrait. And she said, for the next 3 days, we did bucket list stuff. And she said, then we got to Wednesday, and Wednesday was the day. And she said, Wednesday morning, her vet came over and her groomer and friends and family, and she rattled off all these people who came over. But what she did Wednesday morning, Mary, is she went out into her driveway with sidewalk chalk, and she did a rainbow. And so when you came into the house, you had to walk across the rainbow. And then when one of our colleagues got there, they took the doggie out into the rainbow, and they put her to peace in the rainbow, walked her across proverbial Rainbow Bridge. I know, took her in, laid her under the portrait she had painted, and for the next 2 days had a visitation for other friends and family. And
Oh,
and Mary, she kept telling me, Colleen, the end was perfect.
oh,
And Mary, for every family that you and I work with, that's my goal. I want them to turn around to me and say, Colleen, the end was perfect. Thank you for making me think about it that way. Thank you for making me stand tall and look back on this time, 6 months, shoot myself out 6 months and say, what will I do? What will I do to have no regrets and to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, the end was perfect.
I love that. I love that. Oh, the chalk. Why did I not think of this? Everybody has such great ideas too that we could share and take, and what suits your own personal beliefs and things like that. And
yes, exactly.
It's not everything is for everybody, right? So no judgment is always my big rule. Something about the end being perfect. And when we were first starting Lap of Love, we were very much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm like, yes, I want to be there. I want to be there. And what I noticed was all of them in the middle of the night were respiratory distress in emergency situations. And when I did them, although it was better that I could be in the person's home, I realized it wasn't perfect. Yeah. It was distressed. It was an emergency. It was horrible. It was horrible. And so we actually stopped going in the middle of the night, not because I didn't want to. I was there, but what I realized is my goal is a perfect ending, a peaceful one where we're surrounded by love with a chalk rainbow, like whatever it may be. And if we are waiting for the very last minute, which I understand,
yes.
So the jeopardy to that is not having a good experience, and most oftentimes it is running to the emergency room. So that's why I always encourage people to make this decision sooner than we will ever want to. We will never be ready.
Never. Now what,
never.
Mary? What I tell everybody is of the not one, not two, not 20, not 100, of the hundreds of thousands of families that I've worked with and walked with in their journey, not one of them has ever told me it was the exact. I take that back. I could probably count on one hand how many said it was the exact perfect time in the moment. Okay, in the moment, because later when they look back, and with some clarity, because it's foggy when it's going on, right? We're foggy. And they'll look back when the fog is lifted and have a little bit of clarity and be able to say, gosh, I waited too long, or boy, now I see. And you know what, again, no judgment. That's the cool thing about animals. And that's what I always tell everybody in the end. I said, just practice your animal-like self. And one of the most beautiful things that we can do in acting like an animal is to just be. Yeah. Just be, and just as you said, be in the moment. And I got to give another one too, because you and I just talked about this bucket list thing.
Yeah, we love bucket lists.
Love it. Love bucket lists. I've heard so many stories. However, I've also heard these stories where people got incredibly caught up in their bucket list and forgot to just be. Forgot the gift of presence. There's a gift of presence.
That is so true. And also putting things on your bucket list that may not be good for them anymore, right? Like, one last time on the beach may have to be in our memory because they can't, right? And they can't listen. There's many things on my bucket list from when I was 18 that just can't happen anymore, right?
Yeah.
It is what, unfortunately. So it has been 6 months now, this past weekend, since I let my most recent girl go, Sam, and it was Valentine's Day. And I spent months through hospice doing everything, and anybody who knows my story. But there's kind of like two moments of anticipatory grief, or different powers behind it. So maybe the week before, I knew months before the time is coming, and my countdown was happening, and I'm doing the math, and maybe one more week, and all this stuff. But the week before, you start also then checking off, like, this is my last Sunday, this is my last Monday, this is the last time the garbage man's going to come, where she gets all sassy about it, and I'm going to miss that, right? And you start checking off, like, this will be the last time, and then it's all horrible. And then it's, okay, this is 24 hours. Because I set the date, the time, and everything, right? And so I said, last 24 hours, last night, and then it was, for me, the actual moment of that time that I'm going to say goodbye is a little bit different for me than the weeks beforehand. It's that moment where she becomes that angel and not mine. And it's those last few hours few minutes. And then for me, when I give the first medication, and then waiting those 5 minutes for her to sleep. And so I get it. We get it. We know what it can do. It could make us all a little bonkers and sad. So,
and it should. I mean, it's better.
It's better, right? Like, I'm
better.
like, Sam did a damn good job. Like, I am going to miss this creature of awesomeness. And it has been 6 months. And I definitely think it was perfect. Everyone says it's Valentine's Day. And I was like, she was my love. I got Valentine cupcakes. I did the whole thing. I got pictures. I did everything. So besides a bucket list, what are some other things that people can do to be in the moment or prep or, just focus on the time they have? Because you can get so lost in that worry that you're not even there for the now.
Mary, I think that's a great question. And I think a lot of the answer to that question is to be as much eyes wide open as you can be with your own self. Okay. Because some people are not frantic creating, bucket list and all that kind of stuff. And how they do things is more of, very, maybe just sitting together and being together and lighting that candle and soft music and a wine toast or a final cup of tea, whatever it is. I think the moral of this question is to look internally and do some self-reflection and say, what for me will create the most perfect final memories, whichever, what will that be? And for my last little pup, we went out and we held him and walked to the park. He was, all of 6-7 pounds and nothing. And we carried him and let the sun be on his face and sat outside with him and let the sun be on his face. And I want to talk about this one for a second, Mary. Okay. Because our promise to him, as our promise is, as I'm sure it is yours, is that we will be there when the end happens. And whether it's me having to cancel a training at the Lap of Love place and catching a return flight, or, this little guy of which we were getting ready to go out of town for a while. And it was evident he probably wasn't going to last until we got back. And so it had to be a logistical decision for us too. And we knew it was time. Okay. We knew it was time. And as you and I and all of our colleagues talk, we were in the window. And it was our decision as to how big that window opening was going to be. And because we made a promise to him, then it needed to happen before we took off out of town, because that wasn't going to happen while we were gone. Just wasn't going to happen. That's not how we roll. And so we sat, we talked, we shared stories. The other thing I was very mindful of, and we did have one of our beautiful colleagues come over to our house and help us, but I was also very mindful that he was probably going to die like he lived. And that meant he was a monster. He was a little 7-pound monster, just a monster. And he died like he lived. He fought it the whole way. And I knew that. I was very eyes wide open with that. It didn't mean to me that he wasn't ready. What it said to me is he's going to go typical fashion, exactly like he lived. And we were very eyes wide open with that. And I told the veterinarian who was here, and after the fact, she was like, I am so glad you told me that, because she said I was freaked out that I was doing something wrong, yada, yada.
Right.
And said, girl, no, it was not. He's just a stinker. He's a little stinker. And that's what he's going to do.
It's like that poem, do not go gentle into the good night. And some people they don't, like, they just are like, this is how I'm going. I love that story. And, we are all so very different, and how we want to honor our pets and how we want to have that last moment. I have been at literally block parties. I remember Jupiter in Orange County, California, and there was about 60 people for this big old Mastiff that everybody knew. And it was awesome. And I've been present where the owner wants to be there for a little bit and then doesn't want to be there for the last moment. And that's fine. I don't want anybody near me. I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear it all. I just want to lay next to her and him or whomever it is and say
And
goodbye
just be. And
and
just be.
and just be and just
Yeah.
feel and have that calmness.
Yeah.
And it may be different for another pet that I have. I might have a little stinker that
Yeah.
wants to have a party that I'm like, okay, he needs a party. Now,
Mare, I
yeah.
got to tell you something. Let's talk about this 1 second. This is a big thing now, and it's actually a big thing in the human funeral industry. It's called a premorial. A premorial that
look,
says, I will be at my own funeral because I know it's coming. I want to deliver my eulogy. I want to give my I love yous. I want to give maybe my other messages. I want to give those messages.
I
Right?
like this.
So think about your circle. If you have a dog and you're in a disc club or a dock diving club or an agility club or a whatever it is, I don't care, whatever it is, then maybe you do something for everybody. I know one of a lady that I worked with, her little babe was dying, and they love to go to Starbucks and get whatever it is you get for dogs. Yeah, cappuccinos. So right before he died, she took him to Starbucks and she bought every dog that came through there a puppuccino for him. For him. From him. I'm sorry.
From him, right. Or for him. He might have had a couple.
And he had it. Oh my God. He had a whole plate full of them. And what's it matter? Another one of my girlfriends too. Here's the other thing. Think about another one of my girlfriends. She put her beautiful Tara to peace, who had never had a lick of human food, and she got a Subway sandwich from the Ohio State cafeteria, and she was in heaven.
I love it. Listen,
give it to them.
Sam got banana pancakes and bacon and the cupcakes, and that was it. You know what's interesting is that Sam was a very, she was like my Eeyore. I always said, like, okay, I'll go for a walk, right? And so, but I walked 3 miles every day with her and my other dog. And what's weird is when she was in hospice and she couldn't do the walk anymore, so many people would pull over their car and say, "Where's your other dog?" Like, yeah. And I said, she's not well. And then finally, where's your other dog? And I, she's at peace now. And, and that broke my heart, is that they just saw her and they knew her. And so, another, I'm thinking about this, the perfect goodbye. As a veterinarian that sits bedside or poolside or boat side or beach side or, picnic side or wherever we do this, I have heard a lot of families or pet owners say one of two things to their pet as they're passing. They will either say, I'm sorry. And that bothers me a little bit, because there's nothing to be sorry for. We've all been great pet owners, right? It's not making this decision. I'm the veterinarian. I'm the one doing that final act. We're of setting them at peace. But I don't like when people say, I'm sorry. Instead, the other thing that they say is thank you. And I love it when we're able to say thank you. And I think doing these preparatory things, whether it's a bucket list or whatever, that we can then not have regrets. Like, okay, I did everything. They've gotten their banana pancakes and thank you. And I remember this one family I helped, and this again was in California, and they were originally from Germany. So they all spoke German, and they just had, everybody was in these flowy outfits and these flowy curtains. It was just perfect. And they had a big Vizsla, and his name was Scooby. And so I gave the medication for Scooby to start, to fall asleep for his sedation. And Scooby was eating on whatever treats they were giving him. And the little kid said, Danke, Scooby, danke.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, and I lost it in a good way. Like,
yeah,
that's what I want, is I want everybody to be able to say thank you for being there.
I want to reframe I'm sorry a little bit, because
help me.
I am sorry about my broken heart. I am
100%.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to your pet, like you did something wrong.
Yeah, I think it's more about, this is how I'm feeling right now, is I'm sorry, but I think also at the end of the day, and I hear it in the support groups that we do, Mary, I hear it a lot, that they trusted me with their life, and what I gave them was death. And, it's true. That is true. However, we gave them a peaceful death, and we gave them a good death, and we gave them that. But when I'm in the moment, that doesn't that's not how it's feeling, and that's not how it's sitting in my heart. Eventually I won't be sorry anymore,
Right.
but at this moment I am, I am.
You
And
know.
I do want to reframe one other thing too, just for the sake of our conversation, from the perfect goodbye to the perfect ending, because the goodbye and the ending are two different things. So the ending can mean it can mean a whole week. I might be going through a whole week of a walk till we get to you coming to my home, Mary. And so I want that ending to be as perfect as the goodbye, because it's more than just the goodbye. And here's the other reason that I'm so adamant about this, and I'm going to use really horrible grammar with you. So
Okay.
hopefully everybody listening, because of how horrible this grammar is going to be, you'll remember it. And here it is.
Okay.
We remember most vividly what happens most last.
Yeah.
Okay? We remember most vividly what happens most last. And so most last is what it is. Okay. However, if we can also bundle that with a few days of making memories and a few days of being able to crescendo a fabulous life that we live together, so that when they here let me tell you this. So I had have a colleague of mine, and he's in the human funeral industry, and he wrote a blog one day, and he said, he said, when we go to a nursing home or a hospital to take a deceased into our care, he said, we generally go to the back door, we call ahead, let them know we're coming so they can clear the hallways, and everybody kind of scoots away. So we silently take this deceased into our care and leave the building. And so he happened to call this facility one day. He said, I've never been there. And he said, I'm not sure where your back door is. And she said, honey, here we do front door with death. She said, when you come in, she said, you're going to come to the front door. And she said, we're going to line the hallways. And when you take Mrs. Smith into your care, we're going to pay tribute to Mrs. Smith because she lived a beautiful life. And so what we need to remember is do front door with it. Give it the dignity it deserves. Give it the respect it deserves. Give it the attention it deserves, because to ignore it doesn't mean it's going to go away. Okay. The opposite of birth, I'm sorry, the opposite of death is not life. The opposite of death is birth. Okay. There was still life lived. We still shared a life. Let's pay tribute to it. And this is not an if, it's a when.
It's a
It's
when.
a when. And
I
we
know.
have
And I
to
think
step
sometimes
up.
I think for me, I don't try to think I'm ending a life. I'm ending the dying process. And
Yeah.
that helps me a little bit as a veterinarian to know that they will pass. And
Yeah.
and the my one regret of all of my heart dogs and cats that I've had, I have a big heart, so I've got a lot of heart dogs and cats.
Yes.
And the one I regret the most was the one I wasn't present for. He died on his own.
Yeah.
And so I know that I will always want to help end that dying process before Mother Nature does it for me, because I
Yeah.
want to be present. Now,
Yeah.
your horrible English there, your grammar. Actually, my favorite book, which might be one of yours too,
Love it.
Being Mortal.
Love
Like,
it.
love.
Everybody needs to read it.
Everybody
Everybody.
here needs to read this. Look,
Yes.
I've got bookmark. I don't read much. I know I have a bookshelf behind me, but I've got so much notes in here. And he says something similar. It's the peak end.
Yes.
And it's the peak end rule. During an experience, we remember like the highest moment and the very, very last. And so,
Exactly.
and that's why at
Exactly.
Lab Love, we want the very last to be as good as possible. That's why we wrap them in beautiful blankets and in baskets, and and make sure that
Yeah.
that is what your memory is
Yes.
of
Yeah.
them.
And Mary, you've got to always ask yourself the question of, this thing that I'm doing right now, and the story I'm about to reference is when I was flying to Tampa to be with your group, and midair I get a text that my hard dog Harry had collapsed, and then my husband came on and said, today will be the day. You need to make the decision if you're going to be there or you're not going to be there. And I had to sit in that airplane seat for a minute, and I had to say, if I'm not there, how will I feel? And that was just not negotiable in my head. My head and my heart both said, if you're not there, you will have regrets. And so Southwest Airlines pulled out the most amazing stops that I got home 15 minutes before that boy died. And
Oh,
if I would not have, that would have been a decision that I would have really had to wrestle with. But I put some clarity in that moment. It was a logistical decision, and I had to put some clarity in it quickly and take the emotion out and say, you are you going to try to get home? Then if you are, you better figure out how we're going to make
right.
this happen, and then by golly, it happened.
I
but
love it.
but we can't continue to stick our head in the sand and then later say, I wish I would have, or why didn't, or it, whatever it may be, whatever question you have for yourself, ask yourself those questions right now, because
Correct.
that helps to create that perfect ending that then you can look back and you can go, you can do like that young girl, that how we started our session, and you can say the end was truly perfect. It was
Perfect.
truly perfect.
Yep. Yes.
That's powerful, Mary.
I know. Oh, I
It's
love this.
powerful.
Powerful. Now, Colleen, I've got a couple of people putting in some messages here that I
Let
want
me
to.
see. Let me
Yeah.
hear.
Okay. Okay. So, Linwood Stark says, "Hi, Mary." Sorry. Yeah, I remember Linwood from veterinary school. I
Oh,
loved it.
I love it.
Wonderful topic. Very difficult. Diane, love this. You missed some good moments while worrying about the end.
Yeah, yeah, exact. Remember, the best gift is presence. The best gift is presence. Don't ever forget that, ever.
Yep. No, and Tom with Loki, that name sounds so familiar. So Rebecca, 10-year-old Akita, service dog, retired, with metastatic osteosarcoma, not eligible for amputation. Any hope? So I don't know if this is more of a medical question. Any hope for recovery? Osteosarcoma, sadly, is a terminal disease. There is hope, though, to enjoy these last few months that are present, and that's what we have to focus on, Rebecca. And
Absolutely.
and love up on them. One bad day to 7 good ones so far. That's I'll take that.
Good. Take
I'll
that.
take that.
Rejoice, rejoice.
Yes. So Louisa, my boy, passed last week. I did hope he would just go to sleep, but she had to make that call. And I know that we all think of that too, but not until I lost my Neo, where he went on his own, that I regretted not being present.
Yeah.
And that's and it just never, at vet school we always say it's, this is a beautiful passing, all this stuff, but when I wasn't present, the other two that I regret also is 2 kitty cats I lost to coyotes, and I could not be there, right? And like that will always, those 3 haunt me.
Yeah.
So Sandy says, thank you for doing this today. My dog is 13.5.6, sick off and on, and I'm right here and need to get prepared.
Yeah.
So,
And remember too, Mary, I'm going in your lane here, honey, but I'm going to go in your lane for a minute. Old age is not terminal. Old age is not terminal.
correct.
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, you are in my lane. I like it.
I saw your lane.
We cross each other every now and then.
Yes,
that's
we do.
Okay. So Daniela, that's exactly why I'm here. My boy is having health issues that are not fatal, but suddenly I am consumed with anticipatory grief. I don't know how to be present with him while he's here, but I'm consumed with grief and anxiety, and I would love advice.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know what?
Here's my advice to her. Okay, this is my advice. Then I know you can probably jump into Mare. My advice is that whether it's every angle that you can pursue medicinally, so that you can, and I'm talking alternative as well, and I'm talking things like animal communicators, and I'm talking things like Reiki, and I'm talking things like Chinese, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, for me, I'll just give you, this is my opinion. I want to be able to say I pursued all of those and I did what I could do, including an animal communicator and all those other things. And so medicinally that, but then secondly, emotionally, to really just cherish every one of those moments, so that the regret and the guilt of I should have been more present, as you keep saying, Mary. I should have been more present, even if I was working and you had to work and maybe you're work from home. put him right down next to you and put your hand on him. I don't know. But think about what works for you and what you're going to need to do as you look out 6 months from now and look back on this time. Just say no regrets.
No regret. So I'm going to give a little shout out to my good friend Mandy, who might be watching, but she's a photographer, for a pet photographer and many other things. And as I love getting professional photography sessions set up and having like phenomenal pictures taken.
Mare.
If I may, like,
my gosh.
So like,
yes.
I hate that it's in the thing, but I told her that, so my Samoyed does a roo, like they do this special singing thing that Samoyeds do. And I said, I just want a picture of her rooing. And she got her rooing, which is her
rooing.
And listen, she was like 13, but everyone says she looks like a puppy because she's all white and you can't see it. But I'm so happy and grateful that I have these beautiful pictures. And I mean, I wanted her looking kind of old and like what she was. I have a ton of young ones and just still a good part of her life.
Mary, that is such a great recommendation. Get that professional photographer in there and capture those last moments. So, beautiful.
Yes, for sure. And I know Mandy might be watching. She's in Gray Boy Prints, but she's got on her website a list of pet photographers too. So
love it.
So, okay, let me keep going here, Carol. I found it really helped me to take my dog to the pet crematory. They were so nice and helped me through the process, and it felt good to know where she was going. 100%. And
yeah, love it. And I'm going to throw this out too. This one can get this. People kind of go one way or another on this one, but I tell you what I do. They stay at home with me for 2 days after they die. I just, in the loving words of my mentor, Dr. Alan Wolfelt, it's my time to back up and say hello as I prepare to say goodbye. It's my time, my quiet time. And so I'm going to
say that again because I liked that. It is my time.
It's my time to back up and say hello as I prepare to say goodbye. Because I want you to think about what you do at a visitation. You go, oh my God, do you remember when? And do you remember when you did that? And do you remember? And I remember. And so you back up and say hello as you prepare to say goodbye.
That's deep. That's good.
It's big, isn't it?
That's big. So for Sam on Valentine's Day, it was Sunday, and I said goodbye Sunday night. The whole day we ate and watched movies. And I happen to own my crematory here in South Florida, and I said she's gonna stay in the living room. I'm gonna put a little blanket around her, set her all up to transport her tomorrow. No rush.
No rush.
No rush. And in a weird way, it was kind of nice having her there in the morning, and I was so used to having her there in the morning.
Yes.
Right? So it was. So I think it's really good to let people know that is an option. It's not.
Absolutely.
It's not weird. Somebody might say it's weird. You could tell them it's not. I did it.
And in fact, if you want to know how weird I believe it is not, on my website, I have a whole downloadable page about how you prep your baby's body for an overnight visitation. Because I'm such a believer in this that it gives you, stop the frantic movement forward. Stop frantic movement. We don't need frantic movement. Chill out a minute. Just chill. I've always said to families who've asked me about this process, I think we watch way too many sci-fi movies because we believe decomposition is going to begin before our very eyes. And it does not. It does not. Chill out. Your baby, if your baby love was beautiful in life, they are going to be beautiful in death. They're beautiful. I remember what my stepdaughter said when our big golden retriever died. And she looked down at him for the first time. I kept him overnight. She looked down at him seeing him the first time after he passed. And she goes, Colleen, he got his golden back. He's finally at peace. He got his golden back. Isn't? I know, right? Oh my gosh, I just can't.
I can't. This is so many lovely comments that after this you're gonna have to go through. It is just what's great about this little community is that we all get it.
Yeah,
we all get it. We get it in different ways. We get it, and we all know how hard this is, and don't worry about just calling and just also, I would love for people to just call us and find out what their options are. who are the veterinarians in my area? What times do they work? Just so that way you just know these things. Just making this call doesn't have to be the very last call. Like,
oh no, oh no, oh my gosh! Can I tell you something? I have a
yeah.
girlfriend who is a death doula, and her tagline of her business is, "Just because we talk about funerals won't make you dead, just like talking about sex won't make you pregnant."
that is that the death doula says that. So okay.
Yes. So the moral of that story is, stand back. Just because you talk about it doesn't mean Mary's coming out tomorrow. So
Correct.
think about it. We plan for everything else in our life that might happen.
Yes.
So think about, how will I make this one thing that will happen? And Mary and I didn't write the rules. Trust me, I don't like it, just like y'all don't. But at the end of the day, if it's going to happen, let's make it perfect.
Let's make it perfect.
Perfect
Exactly.
and beautiful and memorable. Let's do that.
I love that. I love that. So Lynn had to put their Phoenix to piece last week. And what should I be watching for now in the remaining pets? Depression, question mark, and things like that. So that's
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if
yeah.
you got her clipping, let them smell it, just in case I don't know if she's on there now, if they got to see their deceased friend. But I do everything I can do to help confirm with them what has gone on. And then I give them permission. That's a big word. And I've only said it once, but I tell you what, generally in these sessions, I say the word permission 19,000 times, because not only do we need permission to do what we need to do, but those pets need permission to grieve as well. And so whatever they need, if they're having changes in social, just go with them. And if you believe for a second, I've told countless families this too, if you believe for a second they don't know how you're feeling, you're sadly mistaken, because they know exactly how you're feeling. So sit down and have a good cry with them. Talk to them. Tell them what's going on.
I love it. So Paula has a good question, and I'd like to try to stab at this. And then you could because this, let me first tell you what she says, and then I'll tell you my little mini story. So how do you reconcile allowing your dog to leave on a good day and feeling like you stole it from them? My 15-year-old has degenerative myelopathy and cancer. And okay, so Paula, I remember about 5 years ago, I went to a pet loss support group. Like, I was like, I've never gone. I'm going to go. Just check it out, whatever. And so I had to share my story. And I said, a week a week early, then a day late, all these things I say. And so this woman across she'd been going there for about a year. She was still dealing with the grief. And so she's like, how dare you steal good days away from your pet? And I'm like, oh, that was pretty rough, right? And so I said, you're right, I did. I stole a couple of good days. But what I did more importantly is I took away all those bad days that I also knew were coming. And that's what made me, pillow my head at night, is that the alternative to getting every single last second is putting them through a struggle, putting them through a suffer, bringing them to an emergency clinic or something. And you have to decide what is more important to you and your pet. And for me,
absolutely,
Sarissa forgives me for stealing a good day or two. But what I didn't do is let her struggle so much that she was scared, that she was painful, that she was like all these things. And so, I do. And it sucks because we all want every last minute. And I don't. I want every boop the nose moment. I want every last minute. I love this.
And I think your comment was spot on, Mary, because I don't know when the next moment's going to be a bad moment, And then do you ever the regret that they were, in pain, and there was agony, and it was all those words. And, just like life itself, I don't know what the next moment is going to bring. And when I want a perfect ending, I want to look down and see them licking that ice cream cone. And I want to see that tongue just happy. I want to see that versus me looking down and seeing a shell of an animal that is just, they're there and they just can't get across themselves. And
that's what I'm going to say. I'm sorry. That's when I would say I'm sorry. It's like, I feel I let him down. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
Now,
everybody sees it differently, for sure.
I know listen, that's why we say everybody's so different, right? Some want paw prints, some don't. Listen, I've got paw prints next to me. Okay, so I want to wrap up because you and I could talk forever, but there's a few
hours.
Okay, so there's a few books that I said must read for
Yes.
everyone. Atul Gawande. I also love this. Oh my God, did I cry so hard? When breath becomes air.
Yes. Yes.
That's a good one. But more importantly,
get it, girl. Get it, girl.
yes.
Yes.
Is your book, Colleen.
I love it.
Journey Through Unconditional Love. An awesome book. And I'm going to see you
Samara.
soon. And you need to sign
Yes.
this one.
Love it.
I love it. So we have a lot of pet loss resources on our site. I want to shout out to your site too, which is amazing. So can
Thank you.
Mhm.
twoheartspetlosscenter.com.
I'm writing it in the little. Oh, I think I misspelled it. Hold on. This is someone better than me has to write this. Two Hearts Pet Loss
Center.com.
I think I went a little European on where and center like RE.
Did a little RE on that
I
one?
would get a little RE. There we go. So that's a little better. I put it better.
Yes. Tons of resources. Mary, I love this.
I know. I thank you so much. I know that this has been helpful to many people today and will help many people tomorrow and the days to come. And
love it.
Until you say goodbye, be in the moment, love up on your old, the weak and the wobbly, the skinny and the stinkies, and everything in between.
And be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself in the journey. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I'll jump out and look at all those comments, Mary, and I'll throw some comments out there too.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.